pilots. They sure are a wondrous thing, aren't they? A way to have a creator test out their vision with the general public. Either to a TV channel or to YouTube. More recently, people have been uploading pilots for shows they want to make everywhere. And it's very interesting. By everywhere, I mean like, there's only a few I've actually watched. But even the ones you might expect to be awful actually turn out to be kinda decent. I mean, come on. I just reviewed Alpha Betas, which is a show made by a bunch of gaming YouTubers, and it actually turned out to be better than a lot of adult shows on TV. But anyway, watching a good pilot really makes you want to see more of the show. Makes you want to see more of what the creator has to offer with those 12 or maybe 20 minutes of screen time. So any of y'all remember Hello Neighbor? Yeah, Hello Neighbor. That just a marvelous game that blew up in 2017, and after that nobody ever talked about it again because when it released it was terrible. Yeah, that game. The game that went from having an advanced AI who would adapt and learn what you did, so it would make the game increasingly more difficult as you attempted to enter a secret room of his house, and then later downgraded him to an absolute moron who could barely even find you. Yeah, that game. But wouldn't you know it, those just absolute geniuses at Tiny Build Games decided they need to milk this cash cow a bit more. After making 5 games, they decided they needed an animated series for Hello Neighbor. Because, you know, kids love Hello Neighbor, apparently. Now, you may be thinking, Emerald, I really don't want to watch the absolute dumpster fire that this is gonna be. But I hijack your web browser. You can't escape until you suffer through this with me. So, today is a true critique of Hello Neighbor's awful animated series pilot, Hello Neighbor Breaking in It. Before we get into the pilot, I suppose I'm gonna have to tell you what Hello Neighbor is and why it is getting an animated series. And for why it's getting an animated series, I don't know, but let me tell you what Hello Neighbor is. Hello Neighbor is a game that really blew up sometime around 2016, 2017. It was this game that advertised itself as a stealth horror game where you'd have to outsmart an advanced AI that would adapt and learn what you did. He'd camp at places you'd enter, he'd set up traps at places you'd frequent around the house, he'd set up cameras, and he would do all that. But actually, when the game finally came out, because everyone was playing the alphas, the neighbor was actually a moron, and he would barely do any of these things. He'd just run at you and throw tomatoes. Oh, and here's another fun fact for you. There are 5 games in the Hello Neighbor franchise. Hello Neighbor, Secret Neighbor, Hello Neighbor 2, Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek, and some construction game called, like, Building Neighbor. Because, you know, Tiny Build's gotta make that money. And I'm sure all these games are just to the same pristine quality Hello Neighbor was at launch, because, you know, Hello Neighbor is, of course, known to be the game that had better level design, lighting, and overall gameplay mechanics in the first alpha. Now, you guys may say once again, Emerald, why aren't you reviewing just Hello Neighbor, or one of its many amazing sequels? Well, you see, I don't want to pay for a game that managed to be better when it was in its first alpha, so maybe one day I'll do that. But for now, I'm gonna stick to having played the entirety of Hello Neighbor on my smartphone. So anyway, let's get into the actual topic of the video.
What was that?
The plot of Hello Neighbor Breaking and Entering goes as such. This kid, Nicky, is missing. Can you guess who kidnapped him? When we learn Nicky is missing, the kids have a flashback to the night before Nikki went missing, in which Nikki believes that his neighbor, Mr. Peterson, kidnapped his own kids because of something he's hiding in the house. Nikki and his friends Enzo, Trinity, and the one who calls herself the Cheetah, I'm not looking back through the pilot to remember her name, break into Mr. Peterson's house to find his kids and save them. I really don't know what their plan was, and again, I'm not looking back through the pilot to find out. But anyway, the Cheetah Girl trips an alarm while Nikki finds a room with the word cursed written on the wall a bunch of times. And since they tripped the alarm, gasp, Mr. Peterson comes back. He's back with the most threatening weapon of all, rope. Mr. Peterson then gets attacked by a crow, and both the kids who went in there find exits, one leading out a chimney and the other out of like a hole in the grass, I guess. I don't remember. Mr. Peterson puts something that looked like a body into his trunk. Oh no. And the kids decide to chase him all the way to Golden Apple Theme Park. And when they finally find him there, it turns out it wasn't a corpse. It was just a doll and some medallion thing. Mr. Peterson eventually figures out that he's been followed by a bunch of kids and chases them, and for some reason Nikki decides to be an absolute genius and doesn't run with the rest of his friends. But whoa, don't worry, Nikki doesn't get kidnapped here. Skip forward to the afternoon the next day, where Nikki gets lured into a trap by the neighbor. And I just want to say that his friends were perfectly capable of showing up at any time, and they just didn't. They then discover that someone was actually trying to help them last night in the house. And after that, we end with a little bit of mystery as we see a green light and circus music coming from the neighbor's basement. So, I'm sure you're asking, what did I think of the plot? I thought it was dog shit. First of all, why does Nikki walk into the very obvious trap? Why don't they all go in there, so if the neighbor does show up, they'll have a chance at fighting him off? Why does the girl keep calling herself the Cheetah? Why does she start rummaging through the room? Why is there a big room with the word cursed, with a doorway? Why does Mr. Peterson have these long slides that lead to secret exits of his house? Now you might say, maybe they plan on answering that if the series gets picked up. Well, first of all, it probably won't get picked up because it's not very good. But second of all, I'm still gonna complain about it. But now that I've given you my thoughts on the plot, why don't we move on to the characters and see what I have to say about them. Spoiler alert, it's nothing good.
Not this time. You're not gonna do this to me again. Not again.
So the characters. What did I think of the characters? I thought they were all pretty bad, if you couldn't tell by the tone of this entire video. The characters are all just simple, one-note stereotypes. Nikki's the sarcastic leader, Enzo's the wimpy, scrawny nerd, Trinity's the smart one, Cheetah Girl's the excited young one. It's all just stereotypes, and nothing beyond that. They say they're friends in the show, but I don't buy it. They kinda hint that Nikki and Enzo have this kinda bro BFF things going on, because they do a fist pump, and they talk more sarcastic and jokey to each other, but it's barely relevant and barely even noticeable. Also, might I say that none of the kids sound like actual kids. They sound like fully grown adults trying to speak like kids, especially the Cheetah Girl. Can you tell who my least favorite character was? The voice acting was mediocre at best. Seemed like the only one who was actually trying to give a good performance was the neighbor. And even then, he just sounds like your standard old guy. And those are really the only characters in the show. Like, we see a cop and we see the kid's parents for like 5 seconds. Yeah, so this segment, as you can tell, is going to be shorter than usual, since there aren't really that many characters to talk about. But now that we're done talking about the characters, let's move on to the animation. Yay.
Rita, are you on this channel? I need your spicy chicken recipe.
Who's there? Who's there?
So, what did I think of the anime? It's bad. It's bad. It's not good. It is very bad. Very not good. Very bad. You see, the animators use rigs instead of frame-by-frame animation. Nothing wrong there. Rigs can be a great tool for using animations. They allow you to skip having to draw the frames individually one at a time. But you see, the rigs they use here are very limited. They have like 10 facial expressions, and every now and then we get a new one. But not only that, the designs are just awful. They all have gigantic foreheads, and the same general bodies, except for different clothes. And that's what I don't like about the character designs. Also, the clothes they wear are just really bland. Again, the one who they even seem to have tried on is Mr. Peterson, who actually has a unique character design because it's basically him from the game, just given a 2D form. Also, the neighbor's house looks nothing like his house from the game. I'm pretty sure this is based off the books, which I haven't read. Oh yeah, by the way, there's books. In conclusion, I would not recommend this for a watch. I don't give ratings, I just give recommendations. And this is a time where I don't give that recommendation. This plot wasn't presented well enough for anyone to really want a full series. They didn't do a good job of establishing the mystery. I really didn't care for any of the characters. The only one I slightly liked was Trinity, and that was it. It was just overall boring, which is even worse than it just being hilariously bad. Me and my friend, yes, I watched this with a friend, just sat there the whole time bored until we eventually just stopped paying attention and started talking about Prototype. So I had to watch it again. So no, I did not like the pilot. I don't think it would make a good animated series, regardless of if it does become an animated series. And overall, I just don't like Hello Neighbor. Any of the games, they all look pretty bland. Secret Neighbor is literally just murder mystery, except a character is the neighbor instead of a murderer. So, no, I do not recommend this. I would suggest doing anything else. If you really need your fix for quality entertainment on the YouTubes, I'd suggest watching Hell of a Boss or any other YouTube web series.